refugee camp at Dolori in northeastern Nigeria. They are 8,000, men, women, and children, including Bawa, this little 8-year-old girl. 2 weeks ago, Nigerian soldiers found her in the Sambisa forest, walking aimlessly. She was in shock. The little girl was unable to utter a single word. The soldiers took her to the camp and entrusted her to a family.
She was thinking of the past. They just seems like those ones that she met there. Anybody whom she see with a gun, she was seeing him as the BH. Somebody with a gun or with a pen, she will just run or hold him. There is improvement. It's not like before. She will pick some words. If you send her, she will go. She will. If somebody sends her to you, she will directly go to you.
Bawa is gradually learning to live again with her new family. She lost her real family and her home. Since 2010, all of northeastern Nigeria lives in fear of a bloody jihad. In this recorded message, Boko Haram swore allegiance to the Islamic State in the spring of 2015. The Nigerian sect, led by Aboubacar Shekahu, then took the name of the Islamic State of West Africa. The previous year, Boko Haram provoked global outrage. On the night of April 14, 2014, the sect kidnapped 276 schoolgirls in Chibok, in northeastern Nigeria. The shockwave was international. Michelle Obama, the wife of the US president, joined the Solidarity campaign to demand their release. Aboubacar Shekahu promised to sell them into slavery. In the eyes of the world, Boko Haram then took on the face of barbarism. Since the start of the jihadist insurgency, the violence has resulted in more than 32,000 dead, hundreds of thousands of refugees, and over 2 million displaced people. To understand how the sect has become one of the deadliest terrorist groups in the world, it's necessary to return to northeastern Nigeria, to the capital of the state of Borno, to Maiduguri, the birthplace of Boko Haram. Here, Islamic Sharia law has been enforced since the 11th century. But its sphere of influence has fluctuated throughout the course of history. With the return of democracy in 1999, the people hoped for an end to widespread corruption within the elite and for a fairer distribution of wealth. To bring morality into politics, the Muslim majority in the north of the country wanted to see Sharia law applied more strictly. Boko Haram would take advantage of this popular demand to emerge and grow. In 2002, a young 32-year-old man began to make his voice heard in the town of Maiduguri. In some mosques, his sermons were quickly deemed too fundamentalist, but his personality and charisma increasingly made an impression.
Muna ta bin wannan kiran da ake saboda in mun je za mu tattauna abin da da'awa ne don ya isa kunnan kowa kamar yadda Allah ya sa wannan din haƙƙi ne. Kuma alhamdulillah.
Mohammed Yusuf, the founder of Boko Haram, quickly attracted new followers.
Muna ganin ya isa kunnon.
I met Mohammed Yusuf several times before his death.
Fula Nasrullah is in close contact with the jihadist circles. He claims to have direct contact with Boko Haram. This man has closely followed the evolution of the sect and its leaders.
He could be a very lovely person to be around. He was a nice fellow, he was a nice man. He was a man who had a gift in public speaking. He had this immense ability to turn the minds of people.
The ordinary people were in support of him. They were in support of him not so much on the basis of now the ideological point of Islam, but they were supporting him because they felt that Yusuf is expressing ideas that an ordinary person cannot express.
He denounced the political leaders. He denounced them. He denounced them and their hypocrisy. He denounced them and their manipulating the desires of the people to get into power and then screwing the people up after using them to get power. He denounced that act. And his denouncements of the system, his denouncement of the politicians, his denouncements of their hypocrisy, and his call to Sharia attracted a lot of people.
Wallahi in baka da Qur'ani sai ka ji kai arnan ne yana da magana mai daɗi. Wallahi ƙarya ne. Menene dalili? Allah ya ce yurdunakum za su gamsar da ku bi afwahihim da bakunansu. Wa ta'aba qulubuhum amma zuciyarsu ta ƙi da abin da suke faɗa. Ba ta yarda da abin da suke faɗa ba.
C'est un prêcheur assez doué qui devient très populaire parce que c'est un très bon orateur et qui a surtout un prêche très politique. Et c'est ça qui parle à ses fidèles, c'est ça qui parle aux gens du Borno. Il parle beaucoup de mensonges. Voilà. Qaria, c'est un mot qui revient beaucoup dans ses prêches. Parce que pour lui, les politiciens sont des menteurs. Qaria, c'est le mensonge. Et il va dire aussi, ce n'est pas eux qui ont la vérité. Voilà. Ils n'ont pas la vérité.
They rose up as anti-establishment, questioning the existing wrongs of society, especially perpetrated by the political class. Get it? But giving religious interpretations. Everyone I saw at that time really felt that they were just defending the interests of the Muslims and the masses.
That has been one of their central themes, that the state is corrupt and therefore we need our own state where it's going to be just and we're going to govern in a different way and there will be social justice for all. This happened around the time where maybe socialism, communism collapsed. If you remember, across college campuses, there were lots of Marxist, socialist, young people looking for an alternative system. I think with the collapse of that, people became much more religious.
The poor, of course, were the dominant faction, so to say, within the whole movement. Many of the people were poor, the suffering ones, the people who were most disadvantaged in the society.
Yusuf's message quickly seduced people in this region, where the school enrollment rate is under 5%. The British left the leaders of an independent Nigeria with a deeply divided country. The South, rich in oil, with its concentration of Christian communities who benefited from education programs put in place by the former colonial power. In the poor and rural North, the majority of communities are Muslim. In some traditional areas, Western education is still perceived as an extension of colonialism. Today, Nigeria is the leading economic power in Africa. However, more than half of its population lives below the poverty line. Plagued by corruption endemic in Nigeria's elite, the country had gradually lost the trust of its people.
Les pauvres, eux, rejoignent ce discours parce qu'on leur promet monts et merveilles, tout simplement. On leur promet le paradis sur terre. On va mettre en place un État islamique rêvé, la charia, qui est une forme de justice sociale, donc désormais les riches ne pourront plus détourner l'argent public. On rejoint ce groupe parce qu'on est convaincu qu'il va permettre d'améliorer la vie quotidienne à travers une pratique plus rigoureuse de l'islam.
The most also important target group of youth was the youth, because when he speaks, the youth listens, and they feel that he is representing them, and that was the starting point. There was adequate, a sufficient number of Western educated youth who have joined the Boko Haram or the movement of the Jamaat Asna Dawah wal Jihad on the basis of the fact that Yusuf's arguments were convincing and they are satisfied, and so they joined them and tear their certificates and went in.
Boko Haram, Boko is Western civilization, Haram is taboo. Although some people say sacrilege, it's taboo, something totally forbidden. Some say Western education is taboo. They are not talking of Western education. They are talking of Western civilization. All this democratic system, they say, is forbidden. That how can a woman rule over a man? And how can non-Muslim rule over a Muslim? So this is what they say.
The children of the politicians, the children of army officers, the children of the policemen, the children of people in the security services, who went to the best schools. Some of them went to school in the UK, in France, in Saudi, in the US, buying into what Muhammad Yusuf was selling and following it.
Mohamed Youssouf va monter sa propre mosquée dans un quartier plutôt déshérité, près de la gare de Maïdougouri. Les gens sont intrigués, ils sont curieux. On a même des récits où il y a des ministres du gouvernement d'Idriss Déby au Tchad qui font le déplacement depuis N'Djamena, c'est pas très loin, Maïdougouri depuis N'Djamena, et qui viennent écouter les sermons de Youssouf jusqu'en 2009, donc dans sa markaz, dans son centre religieux. Ça attire les gens, il y a beaucoup de curiosité sur ce rejet radical de l'État tel qu'il existe au Nigeria. D'ailleurs, on me racontait, les voitures qui sont garées devant la markaz de Mohamed Youssouf, c'est des voitures luxueuses. Il y a des Mercedes, des 4x4 rutilants, avec les vitres fumées auxquelles seuls les officiels ont droit. Donc on voit bien qu'il y a des gens de haut niveau qui viennent fréquenter la markaz. Encore une fois, ça ne veut pas dire qu'ils adhèrent aux idées, mais ça les intéresse, qu'est-ce qui se passe là-dedans. Donc c'est bondé de monde, c'est un endroit populaire. Youssouf, comme tout bon salafiste, effectivement a aussi une dimension sociale, donc il va nourrir les orphelins, les enfants de la rue, etc., qui vont se greffer autour de sa markaz, qui est plus qu'une simple mosquée.
Ce qu'il dit, c'est que on ne peut pas, en tant que musulman, vivre dans un système qui met la Constitution au-dessus du Coran. C'est pas possible, parce que du coup, les droits des musulmans vont forcément être bafoués à un moment ou à un autre. Donc il dit pas vraiment on veut notre propre État, mais par contre il dit nous on veut pouvoir se retirer dans un endroit pour pouvoir exercer notre religion et la vivre comme on l'entend.
Donc leur revendication, elle est double. Un, ils veulent étendre le domaine d'application de la charia. Et deux, ils veulent que la charia devienne la source suprême du droit. Ce qui n'est pas possible dans un régime constitutionnel, dans une république fédérale comme le Nigeria.
Then Mohamed Yusuf received the unexpected support of the governor of Borno, Ali Mudu Sharif. This man from a wealthy family was an important figure in local politics. The governor of Borno presented an unnatural alliance to Mohamed Yusuf.
En sachant qu'à l'époque, si vous voulez, il y a toujours ce discours du gouverneur du Borno qui, pour attirer des voix, se faire élire, prétend qu'il va mettre en place une charia beaucoup plus étendue. Sharif s'engage à appliquer correctement la charia, en échange de quoi on peut supposer, je dis bien supposer, que, disons, Mohamed Youssouf, qui pourtant vilipendait le système démocratique, n'a pas interdit à ses fidèles d'aller voter en faveur d'Ali Mudu Sharif.
Ali Mudu Sharif needed Mohamed Youssouf to retain power and to accumulate more power. Mohamed Youssouf needed Ali Mudu Sharif to run interference for him with the government. Money, of course, played a big role in that alliance. Money from Ali Mudu Sharif and Borno State government to Mohamed Youssouf.
Il s'avère qu'Ali Mudu Sharif, pour plein de raisons, n'a pas pu et n'a pas voulu sans doute appliquer la charia comme l'a demandé Mohamed Youssouf, et la brouille est consommée. Et à ce moment-là, effectivement, Mohamed Youssouf vilipende publiquement. On a quelques sermons où il ne nomme pas Ali Moudou Sharif, mais on voit très bien à qui il fait référence comme étant un ennemi de l'islam.
kaifa yaya za a bar ku a rika ta cewa zaman lafiya a ce ana da alkawari tsakaninsu da Allah da manzon Allah bayan wa in yazharu alaikum in su sun samu karfi a kanku la yarqubu fikum ba za su kiyaye a cikin ku ba illan dangantaka wala zimma ko alkawari.
Les prêches de Youssouf sont quand même très clairement anti-État et sont très violents dans les mots. Après, Youssouf c'est pas lui-même engagé dans la lutte armée contre l'État, mais il portait quand même un discours qui forcément était inquiétant pour les autorités. Et le fait qu'il soit très suivi, le fait qu'il soit très populaire, oui, ça devient une menace. Effectivement, ça devient une menace.
Nizami ne, shugabanci ne, natsuwa ne, sanin ya kamata ne, fuskantar inda an yi gaba ba a dawowa ne. Ina fata fahimta. Ka kona soci ka bari mana, ranar jihadin ai zai zo ya zama su to daga baya.
There were certain views that were, so to say, in court extremist, going beyond bounds. You get it? And then when these ideas became a bit apprehensive to government of the day, he became very critical, and then he has been arrested.
When Muhammad Yusuf was arrested and taken to Abuja, when he returned back to Maiduguri, you could see a sea of humanity flocking out to welcome him, jubilating, happy that he had returned.
So that actually popularized him. So he made him not now merely a religious figure or a mere religious preacher in Borno, but he's now becoming a political figure.
Et puis vous avez un phénomène tristement célèbre au Nigeria, ce qu'on appelle le godfatherisme. C'est en référence au film de Coppola, vous voyez, Le Parrain. C'est-à-dire c'est le côté mafieux des politiciens nigérians qui, pour gagner les élections, recrutent des jeunes de la rue, ce qu'on appelait la milice Ekomog d'Ali Moudou Sharif. Or, comme d'habitude, ces gouverneurs, une fois qu'ils sont élus, merci les gars, c'est sympa, rendez-moi les armes. Et puis évidemment, personne ne rend les armes. Et à ce moment-là, ce groupe Ekomog, on a plusieurs témoignages qui l'indiquent, va rejoindre les rangs de la Marquise de Mohamed Youssouf, où on s'occupe des jeunes de la rue. Donc là, ça inquiète encore plus les autorités, puisque vous avez des gens qui sont plutôt versés dans la criminalité, dans des gangs de rue.
The federal government actively acted out a strategy to provoke a series of incidents.
In 2009, the mobile police used the pretext of a law regarding the requirement of wearing helmets, previously rarely enforced, to reprimand members of the cult riding motorcycles who were returning from a funeral. The members of Boko Haram refused to comply. The police opened fire on them.
Ce que dit Youssouf dans le prêche qui suit, il explique que si les militaires sont capables de tuer des gens pendant des funérailles, il n'y a aucun respect pour rien, donc ils sont capables de venir les tuer même s'ils sont assis à rien faire. Là, vous êtes sortis, vous nous avez tués en masse. Prochaine fois que vous sortez, dites-le nous, on se prépare. On se prépare et là, on y va. Et là, on va voir. Là, vous verrez ce que vous aurez en face.
Tukuna aka fada kawai kafiri ya rika kashe, ya rika harbi na kisa. Ba wanda ya harbi wai su ƙwararru ne, wai sun yi harbi ne don kare kai, wai da gangan ne ba don su mutu ba, wallahi tallahi ƙarya ne. Wallahi tallahi sun yi ne don su kashe 'yan uwa, Allah bai kashe su ba. Allah ne kaɗai bai kashe su ba. Akwai kafirin da ya harbin, akwai da yawa 'yan uwa sun ji shi yana cewa I will kill them, finish. I will kill them, finish. Zan kashe su gaba ɗaya, haka yake cewa. To idan kai ku saurare ni nake wa'azi ba ku, bakar kowa ya samun baki.
Il dit pas vraiment bon maintenant on va vous tuer, mais il dit maintenant on est prêt quoi. On est prêt.
The outpouring of emotion triggered by the shooting provoked real tension among the followers of the sect. Though the sermons of Muhammad Youssouf appeared fierce, behind the scenes, the leader of Boko Haram urged caution. But his position became untenable. The hardliners of the movement, personified by Aboubacar Shekahu, called for immediate revenge.
Muhammad Youssouf wanted to make jihad, he just was not ready. He felt the time was too early. But the statements of people like Aboubacar Shekahu and other people forced Muhammad Yusuf's hand. Aboubacar Shekahu felt the time to act is now. You only strike while the iron is hot. You don't wait until everything is in place. As long as you have a gun, you have legs, you have hands, then you start the jihad.
Et effectivement, alors à ce moment-là, ça dégénère. Donc le groupe part, d'abord il est enfermé par la police dans le Markaz près de la gare de Maïdougouri, et puis une nuit ils parviennent à s'échapper, et là ils partent dans l'ensemble de la ville, saccager les bâtiments publics, ils s'en prennent aussi aux églises.
This time it was so terrible. The Boko Haram hold the city at stake for almost a week. That was the genesis. And we don't know what had happened anyway, but later on, the whole thing now turned upside down. There was no Christian, there was no Muslim. Mosques attacked, churches attacked, all the civil society is being attacked.
So they went on a rampage, basically. And the army was called in to deal with the situation which they did.
L'armée intervient, tire dans le tas. On a un rapport du gouvernement du Borno qui n'a jamais été publié et qui dit que 1000 personnes ont été tuées.
The trouble started and escalated. A whole-scale military operation was taken. And by the time, you know, that was between from Monday to Thursday, in fact Wednesday, 3 good days, they were in this military engagement. So by the time after the military engagement, some of them have died, some have escaped. Yusuf was arrested.
On lui demande, mais toi tu rejettes tout ce qui est occidental, pourtant tu roules dans des voitures, pourtant tu portes bien un pantalon qui a été fabriqué probablement dans une usine. Et donc il essaye de se justifier un peu, il dit mais non, le coton c'est aussi une création de Dieu, il n'y a rien de mal là-dedans. Il est torse nu. Dans le contexte nord-nigérian, dans le contexte musulman, c'est très humiliant d'être nu, même si c'est à demi nu. On lui demande quand même qui est ton bras droit, et c'est là qu'il dit Aboubacar Shekahu.
This is the first time that Aboubacar Shekahu, the man who would become the successor of Muhammad Yusuf, was designated his closest lieutenant.
C'est pas lui qui décide de dire voilà, vous m'avez arrêté aujourd'hui, mais le mouvement va continuer. D'ailleurs, j'ai un bras droit, il s'appelle Aboubacar Shekahu. Il répond à une question. Les policiers lui demandent qui est ton bras droit et il répond. Il sait pas qu'il va mourir à ce moment-là. Il sait qu'il est dans une mauvaise passe, mais il a été arrêté plusieurs fois avant, Youssouf. Il sait pas qu'il va être abattu 10 minutes plus tard dans la rue.
When Yusuf was arrested, he would have been also taken to court. But that is the spirit of democracy. He would have been taken to court, then the court would now give whatever verdict, and then if he's to be executed, he's to be executed. If it's to be life imprisonment, it's to be life imprisonment. You get it? But unfortunately, we learned that there was a directive from the executive government of the day to just shoot him.
Youssouf, c'était la colombe dans Boko Haram. Et une fois qu'il est tué, vous avez tué la colombe. Donc vous avez tué non seulement l'élément structurant du groupe, qui du coup va se désintégrer dans des petites cellules autonomes et clandestines, et puis du coup les faucons prennent le pouvoir après l'exécution extrajudiciaire de 2009. Ça peut sembler paradoxal, mais Mohamed Youssouf avait déjà négocié avec l'État, on le sait. Donc dire qu'un groupe terroriste ne négocie jamais, en tout cas Youssouf, lui, il avait négocié. Mais une fois qu'il a été tué, évidemment, les radicaux ont pris le dessus, les faucons, et puis ils ont dit, mais il n'y a pas d'autre moyen que de finalement mener le djihad, une guerre sans merci et sans fin à l'État nigérian.
After the death of Muhammad Yusuf, the survivors of the Battle of Maiduguri gathered in Niger to prepare their revenge. In July 2010, Boko Haram launched their first terrorist attacks in the state of Borno. Having become clandestine, the sect communicated by posting video messages of its new leader, Aboubacar Shekahu.
Zuwa ga wato Goodluck Jonathan da kuma shugaban Kristoti, kuma kowa ya ga me aka mana, kuma kowa ya ga me aka ajiye mana, sai kuma waɗanda yake Kristoti waɗanda kowa ya san abin da suka mana da kuma abin da suka ajiye wa musulmai. The beginning they called Christians infidels, pagans, those who worship many gods. So they should come back to worship one God, Allah. I think that's what the Boko Haram was saying. And also, they say our women dress naked, they go about exposing themselves, and people drink beer, people smoke, people gamble. So they said it is Christians that do this. That was I think that was some of the excuses we hear them saying.
The targeting of the Christians was mostly influenced by a perception shared within the ranks of the insurgents that the Christian Association of Nigeria orchestrated the army's brutal policy of killing the relatives of those associated with the so-called Boko Haram movement. So basically it was a case of you orchestrated the murder of our families, and so now we murder your own civilians too.
On a les premières attaques planifiées d'églises chrétiennes à partir de la fin 2010, alors qu'au départ, les chrétiens ne sont pas vraiment dans le radar du groupe. Bon, les chrétiens sont vus comme les agents du sionisme ou de l'impérialisme, de ce que vous voudrez, mais la cible du groupe au départ, c'est les forces de sécurité et les mauvais musulmans, les musulmans corrompus qui sont au gouvernement. C'est pas les chrétiens. Mais en 2010, les minorités chrétiennes commencent à être effectivement visées, planifiées, etc.
The attacks against Christians provoked a widespread outpouring of emotion in the country. This added to targeted murders of security forces, traditional leaders, and politicians considered as corrupt by the sect. Boko Haram went on to commit a suicide attack on the headquarters of the National Police in Abuja, the federal capital. President Jonathan was forced to intervene. He sent the army to the northeast, an army that was ill-prepared and poorly educated.
Many of the soldiers who were sent to beef up forces in the northeast were recruited from mainly Christian areas. Now, the typical Nigerian is ignorant about other regions except the region which he was born in.
Les soldats qu'on envoyait combattre dans le Borno ne parlaient pas les langues locales, donc évidemment quand on dit haut les mains que les gens ne comprennent pas, que les gens ne lèvent pas les mains, on tire dans le tas, et c'est pas de très bon effet. En plus de ça, à chaque fois qu'il y avait une attaque contre des militaires, il y avait des vengeances des militaires qui ne procédaient pas de façon beaucoup plus stratégique que Boko Haram, hein, action, réaction, donc l'attaque venait de tel quartier, on allait incendier le quartier.
These people came with ignorance and perceived all people resident in Maiduguri or resident in the northeast to all be Boko Haram. And they treated everybody the same, both the Christians and the Muslims. In fact, they didn't even believe that there was a substantial minority of Christians in Borno State. They felt that everybody in Borno State, because even the women, even the Christian women, wear the hijab, they wear the hijab like the Muslim women. They perceived that everybody was Muslim, and if you are Muslim, you are supporting Boko Haram, even though you are not supporting Boko Haram openly. And they began to treat the civilians the same as they treated Boko Haram.
Et ça va aussi, disons, construire la légende de Boko Haram, où des gens vont rejoindre le groupe, pas tant parce qu'ils adhèrent aux idées un peu folles de Mohamed Youssouf, qui de toute façon est mort, mais parce qu'ils ont peur de la répression des militaires, qui, dès qu'ils voient un jeune dans la rue, vont l'arrêter, le torturer à mort en prison, etc. L'armée a beaucoup fait pour être un agent recruteur pour Boko Haram. Le fait d'exécuter des civils, la décapitation, torturer à mort, violer des femmes, excusez-moi, tout ça l'armée le fait aussi.
This time around, if you want to push ahead. Ahead. Don't waste time. Go down. Hold him west. Now,
Donc en fait, la situation empire complètement. Plus l'armée tape sur le groupe, plus les jeunes s'enfuient effrayés et préfèrent aller combattre pour Boko Haram. On ne peut pas passer ça sous silence. Donc je crois qu'il faut systématiquement mettre en regard les atrocités commises par Boko Haram avec les atrocités commises par l'armée ou la police. On ne peut pas comprendre Boko Haram si on fait abstraction de ces atrocités.
In May 2013, President Jonathan declared a state of emergency. The abuses committed by the army had greatly weakened the support of the people. Support of the military was nevertheless indispensable to fight against this elusive enemy. The army then promoted the establishment of a local militia, the CJTF, or the Civilian Joint Task Force. Civilians recruited in towns and the villages of the Northeast were used as auxiliary police at security checkpoints to identify the members of the sect.
JTF, Kato da Gora, mutanen Borno ko? Shari yarwaye luran nan ka kashe. Tada yarwaye.
When they began to slaughter whole villages and attack whole villages, it was justified by them on the basis that within these villages, a lot of the people were believed by the insurgency to have been spying for the federal government.
Et là, on voit un infléchissement de la stratégie et de la tactique de Boko Haram, qui avant évitait de tuer des civils, surtout lorsqu'ils étaient musulmans, mais à partir de l'état d'urgence, pour dissuader les civils de rejoindre les rangs des milices paragouvernementales, à ce moment-là, ils vont commencer à tuer des civils en masse, ce qui n'était pas le cas avant.
reporting wace da cewa duk mutumin da aka samu a hankali duk time da aka gane shi sai a nuna musu kawai da hannu.
And they not only assassinate you, in fact sometimes they leave you alive and then they assassinate all your loved ones, even your goats and your sheep, and if you have a dog, even your dog, they would kill and then leave you alive to deal with the trauma afterwards.
The summer of 2014 marked Boko Haram's year of territorial expansion. The sect seized several towns in the northeast of the country. The Nigerian army was on the verge of defeat. In addition to the arsenal that the sect procured in the region's widespread black market, Boko Haram regularly retrieved weapons and vehicles that had been abandoned by Nigerian soldiers. In the south, in the state of Borno, Boko Haram took the town of Gwosa without even having to fight.
C'est-à-dire que là, pour la première fois, on voit clairement les membres de Boko Haram contrôler une ville. Ils sont victorieux, ils ont pris une ville, ils la gèrent. Le symbole le plus fort de ce contrôle sur la ville, c'est Shekahu qui prêche dans la mosquée de Gwosa. Il se réinstalle dans le rôle du prêcheur. Et il fait un prêche très classique d'ailleurs, hein. Il ne fait pas du tout un prêche contre l'État nigérian ou quoi. Il fait un prêche en arabe très général sur le droit des musulmans à vivre en paix leur religion dans un espace qui leur appartient, à imposer leurs propres règles et à les faire respecter, et, voilà. Et au bien-être qui est un droit pour le musulman. Alors ils font témoigner des habitants de la ville, qui témoignent de manière tout à fait libre et consentante.
Sakon da za kai wa arnan su zo su musulunta.
Na'am.
Su biya addinin Allah.
Na'am. Ga Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ya kawo dolar musulunci a area ku kenan.
Ya
na'am.
Suna jin daɗi a yanayin yadda wani
na'am.
Suna godiya ga
Allah. Na'am.
Allah kuma ya karfafa mana addinin musulunci.
Amin ya rabbi. Wani irin jin daɗi kuke a cikin daular musulunci, daula ne na musulmai?
Da daular na ya zo da gaskiya muna cikin daɗi.
Na'am.
Yadda yanayin yadda arna suke da.
Na'am.
Despite these propaganda images, it was terror that was imposed in all of the areas controlled by Boko Haram in the northeast of the country. The purging of bad Muslims and the hunting of Christians continued and magnified.
what is happening is not a jihad. It's entirely, it's genocide. What are your objectives? What do you want to get? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to establish in Northeast region? It's a faceless organization engaged in carnage. Faceless Muslim organization engaged in carnage. And then, unfortunately, the media and the people took it as Islam. There's nothing Islamic there.
The civilians who fled the fighting and the massacres crowded into the camps in the region. More than 2 million people forcibly displaced, who have lost almost everything, wait with little hope to return to life as normal. They come from Gwosa, Damasak, Mongono, almost all the towns and villages of Borno State. Most are traumatized.
A daidai karfe 7 sun zo sun kewaye gidanmu. Da ni da mai gidana sun same mu a gida kenan. Ɗaya ya shiga da wuka da bindiga a hannun shi. Akan cewa yau kwananki ya kare.
Kannena suka dawo wajena suna kuka nake musu. Me ya faru? Mun rikice da gaba ɗaya mun rasa ya zami. Suna kuka. Shi mai gidan nawa kawai ya ce tun da kin ji suna kuka kan ai wani abu ne ya faru a gida. Faɗan hakan da muka yi babu sun iso gidanmu ɗin ma. Sun zagaya mu. Suna cewa kawai harbe shi da suka ce da na juya na kalle su sai suka ce mu wannan fa mace ne. Sai suka kira shi a daki. Suka kira shi a daki da ya fita to a biranda ne madaman yake. Yana isowa suka ce za mu tambaye ka. Yana ɗaga kafan shi to bai iso wajensu ba kawai sai suka harbe shi shi ma.
Ni na zauna su kwana na 11. Kwana 11 karab yayi wannan to gari warin gawa ya dame su. Gaba ɗaya ma ya dame mu. Wani su da yake suna da rawani. Mu kuma yawanci mu ya ga bakin rigar mu wannan sai dai mu daure hancin mu. Mu daure hancin wari ya dame su ka samu ɗiban gawa. Kwana 11 wannan ina ji da karfe 6 na sassafe.
Na ce Yesu ka cice ni sai an fara doke ni. Yesu ka cice ni. Sai ya kama mini baki ya duke ni ido ba inda jikina bai samu duka ba sai sun fashe mini wuya rai ya yi hali na kwana ba rai da safe karfe 6 na safe na farka.
Kuma ni a gaskiya ban tambaye ta an neme ta ko ba neme ta ba saboda ba zan ji dadin sa ba idan na ji me na karawa kaina. Zan kara bata raina ne ko me shi yasa ban tambaye ta ita kuma bata ce mu an neme ta sai da kawai abin da yake.
Wasu a zuba ko gidan a baki ruwa na wallahi na faɗa maka Allah na ga rai sama da 800 Allah sun kashe. Dan abin da yasa sai ka taka zaka shiga kogi. Ko kuma ka riga ka haye kogi ka wuce ma zaka gani a cikin ruwa sau gawa akan ruwa kwance dan duk inda aka samu getting 3 days gawa zai tashi akan ruwa. Zai tashi. Ni kuma halin da Allah ya fitar da ni wannan ba kuma bane garin daukan gawa a jiha zuba kogi. An zuba gawa sun juya za su dauko wani a mota ni ma na bi gawa na lime tafiya na kenan shine abin da Allah ya tsidatar da ni.
Since the beginning of the insurgency, Boko Haram has used local resources to finance their jihad. They steal cattle, they raid crops, they empty bank vaults and kidnap hostages for ransom. As the area shares its borders with 3 countries, they've used Cameroon, Chad, and Niger as rear bases for its members and to sell their stolen goods without being bothered by the country's authorities, creating more refugees that the Nigerian army can't reach.
There had been a silent understanding that the Cameroonians would not arrest, attack, or otherwise impede the insurgents in using Cameroon as a rear base for supplies and training to go back to Nigeria and fight, as long as the insurgency did not attack. The same understanding which they had with the Cameroonians was the same understanding they had with the Nigerians. Nigeria has always been their other backyard, so to say. They go to Niger to recuperate and rest. They keep their families in Niger, they run businesses in Niger. They use Niger for weapon smuggling and stuff. From Libya too, they were smuggling weapons through Niger back to Nigeria.
In the face of Boko Haram's advances and their victories in the field, France, at the request of the Nigerian president, organized a summit on the subject of the region's security. All of the heads of state concerned were present. Nigeria needs the help of Paris to convince its francophone neighbors to commit to the fight against Boko Haram. An international military coalition was organized. Now the armies of Chad and Niger had the right of pursuit in Nigerian territory. Aboubacar Shekahu responded.
يا زعماء كاميرون والشاد والبنين ويا رؤساء إفريقيا أن من فهم هؤلاء الآيات بفضل ربه قد تيقن أنه هو الناصر ما دام مخلصا يو كازو كان بين فرنسوا هولاند يو كازو كان دوكا كان كارنت هارتشو ام فرنسا.
Il y a cette coalition avec les pays francophones voisins du Nigeria qui se met en place. Et là, effectivement, le modus vivendi du pacte de non-agression mutuelle avec le Niger, avec le Tchad, se défait. Et à ce moment-là, Boko Haram va commencer à attaquer dans les pays voisins massivement. Premiers attentats suicides à N'Djamena, la capitale du Tchad, multiplication des attentats dans la région de Difa au Niger, etc. etc. Et aujourd'hui, le Cameroun devient un des foyers très intenses, presque plus que le Nigeria, d'une insurrection qui s'est déplacée dans les pays voisins, résultat aussi donc de cette coalition internationale qui s'est mise en place.
After several months of fierce fighting, the coalition had managed to drive Boko Haram from the large cities the jihadists had occupied in the state of Borno. In December 2015, Muhammad Buhari, the new Nigerian president, strengthened by recent military successes, declared that Boko Haram was technically defeated.
Technical defeat, it's funny for the president to even come out openly and say such a thing. I mean, if you leave Maiduguri, for example, now, you want to go to Mafa, you have to go with a heavily armed convoy. The road from Damboa to Maiduguri is controlled by the insurgency. Right outside Gwoza, the insurgents operate there in strength. The attack on Daluri, just some days before this interview was recorded, was an attacking force.
On the night of January 30th, 2016, Boko Haram once more laid bare the claim of victory by the Nigerian authorities. In Delori, on the outskirts of Maiduguri, they undertook a retaliatory operation. The next morning, the inhabitants who had fled returned to their village, burnt to the ground. "86 people met their deaths that night, many of them children.
Samma amna gade kashe sorbudero karana burro kono choko luye bla toletero gaye kala do lim pala lapkata mbe lim patro isa kono sakada kono ruzu andara fitu na yar nam narmade kampal na yan nam baza kono de chejo panma da sai indi solo cho sha wata ranya kampal nam ra ande yak sur toletela.
as of March 8, 2015, until today, this is the last patient that I'm talking about. This is 723rd patient who is undergoing surgery. We have been operating on the head, neck, chest, abdomen, extremities, the whole body, eye, face, right? Stitch. Because these were gunshot wounds, explosions, bone surgeries, surgeries on children, elderly, male, female. During this period, everybody has been affected without exception.
Today, Boko Haram has sought refuge in the Sambisa forest, a national park situated just 60 kilometers southeast of Maiduguri. The park covers a territory that's twice as large as Belgium. They're entrenched there with several hundred people who are held as hostages. For the most part, they are women, many of whom are converted and married by force to their fighters. Even though Boko Haram has suffered many military setbacks in the face of the international coalition, the sect still manages to terrorize isolated villages in the region. It will take more than bullets and bombs in Nigeria to permanently get rid of Boko Haram.
On peut écraser un mouvement, mais ils ne vont pas tuer l'idéologie qu'elle porte, et qui se base sur ce fossé qu'il y a entre les riches et les pauvres au Nigeria. Le discours qu'a porté Youssouf peut prendre partout. Donc une fois que le mouvement sera écrasé, d'ici, je sais pas, 2-3 ans, faudra voir où est-ce qu'il a fait des petits, quoi, et où est-ce que ça va ressortir. Et comme c'est le djihadisme qui a le vent en poupe en ce moment, ça sera probablement sous cette forme-là aussi.
Frankly, I believe that there can be no reconciliation or a proper end to this whole war until the army is held accountable as an institution and until soldiers who individually participated in massacres against civilians and until officers who gave these orders are held to account. Until justice is done, both from the insurgent side, which means the insurgents too have to be held to account, and then from the government side, the military and the police too have to be held to account, then there is really, I don't see true peace ever coming.
Knowledge is the key. We've got to understand where the connections are and why that narrative resonates so much with young people, because a lot of people that do join these groups start out when they're young. We've got to provide alternative platforms for youth. It's not enough to say as a state, well, I'm going to provide you with an education. A state has to be responsible for a lot more. You've got to provide a child an opportunity for self-actualization on many fronts. What should your citizens be? Beyond being educated, they must have a life. And a life consists of many things: anchoring to society, ability to express yourself in whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's in philosophy, whether it's in dance. There are many things that connect us and make us human. And the state must be able to join hands with family, traditional institutions to make sure that kids have those different spaces. If you don't have platforms to shine, you'll look for it, and sometimes you look for it in very dark places.